Hey guys, this is Matt. So this is the video for Season 1, Episode 20 of The Flash. Feels like I've done this before. It couldn't be, right? Hey guys, this is Matt. So I'm a day late as of the time of recording, but I wanted to record a quick video about Season 1, Episode 20 of The Flash. This episode was fantastic. One of the best ones we've had in a while. Lots of stuff revealed. Lots of stuff being set up for the rest of the season, which isn't very much longer. And it was really, really enjoyable. I'm going to run through a few things in no particular order, just some things that I thought were cool. So be careful for spoilers. If you haven't seen the episode yet, pause this, go watch it, and come back. You'll be glad you did. Let's start with the actors and characters themselves. So everybody seemed like they were really kind of extra amped up this time around, and it was a good thing. So there was a lot of stuff going on, a lot of things happening for them all at once. Eddie asking Iris to marry him, them really finding out about Harrison Wells, finding out about him being from the future, all this stuff going on all at once, trying to figure out how to deal with everything. So you could tell that all of the characters were really kind of on edge. There were still some funny moments, despite the fact that this was a little bit heavier of an episode, but there was still a lot of laughs in it. I just thought the actors did a really great job of just conveying the fact that they're trying to figure out how to handle all this stuff happening all at the same time, because that would be a pretty big challenge. So props to them. It gave this episode a sense of urgency, if you will, a sense of stress, really. Because I know how I feel when I'm trying to juggle a bunch of things at once, and they definitely were. As I mentioned, with Eddie asking Iris to marry him and trying to figure out all that, Team Flash trying to deal with Harrison Wells and all the information they've learned, trying to figure out how they can trap him, realizing that Cisco could maybe access his subconscious memories from the previous timeline that was erased when Flash went back in time. Trying to deal with all that stuff. It's just so much going on all at once. But it wasn't overwhelming. It was actually really well done, and I felt the stress that they did. So great job. So one of the biggest things that happened in this episode actually happened at the tail end of the last episode, and that is Barry, Caitlin, and Cisco actually finding Dr. Wells' secret room at Star Labs. Now, Cisco referred to that as the Time Vault, which was kind of funny. So there's a lot of stuff that happened in this segment, several Easter eggs, and then, again, a lot of seed planting for episodes to come. The first one being, which is really cool, Barry interacting with Gideon, and Gideon almost referring to the fact that Barry was a founding member of the Justice League. So in the show, Gideon says that Barry Allen is director of Central City CSI unit, and then Gideon also mentions that Barry is a founding member of, and then he cuts her off to ask her another question. Now, there was a preview comic that was released. I can't remember if it was a full comic or maybe just like a one pager for this episode. But in that comic, it's basically the comic version of that segment. But in that comic, Gideon actually says founding member of the Justice ... and that's when Barry cuts her off. So that was really cool. Having seen that gave me a little bit more excitement. If I hadn't seen that and just seen the episode, I still probably would have known what she was referring to. But it was neat to sort of have that connection sort of into a larger world that we may see someday with this spin-off show. Who knows how that's going to go. But just having that acknowledgement of bigger things to come, that was really nice. Another thing I really liked about this was Cisco seeing the future newspaper and noticing the differences in the Flash suit. He said, I like the brighter red. I like the white around the symbol. So that gives me hope that they're going to move towards this suit maybe next season. I like the existing suit now, but it's just too dark. In certain scenes, especially in the darker scenes, it looks like he's wearing a black suit, and that's just not the Flash. I mean, he's the Scarlet Speedster. He shouldn't be wearing something dark. He should be wearing something bright and red. There's been a few promo images that the costume looks a little bit brighter, and I think it looks just fine. So I'm not sure why they're trying to go for this dark look, but I'm glad they acknowledged that the suit will eventually, at some point, someday, become a brighter red, and also the white around the symbol. I've gotten accustomed to the red symbol, but the white is just classic. It's surprising that they're actually going that way now, because there was some images released of some upcoming issues of the Flash, some Brett Booth art, which is fantastic, but the suit actually looks closer to the TV version. So I wonder if they're going to sort of swap places, and eventually the TV version will become the comic version and vice versa. But nice shout out to the classic suit. So as I mentioned, Cisco actually saw the Future newspaper, and that was big because they actually read part of it. There were references to Green Arrow and Hawk Girl, and they noticed that the date was 2024. So that's what confirmed for them that Wells was from the future. But they also noticed the byline was from Iris West Allen. So that gave Barry, in spite of the fact everything that was going on, Barry got a grin on his face because he knows what's going to happen with him and Iris one day. So that's got to make a guy feel good. But one thing I liked about the paper was that when we first saw it at the beginning of the beginning of the season, it said that the Flash vanishes in a crisis, and it also references the red skies. So we were thinking that, okay, there's going to be some kind of TV version of Crisis on Infinite Earths at some point, or maybe Infinite Crisis or something like that. And we may get that, but the paper references that the Flash disappeared in a battle with the Reverse Flash. Apparently some big epic battle, and again, Green Arrow and Hawk Girl had to get, and the Atom too. They all had to get involved to help with the Reverse Flash, and during that battle, Flash and Reverse Flash vanish in a poof of light. I didn't want to say flash of light because that's way too corny, but and presumably that's when they come back to the past to kill Barry's mom, or when Barry's mom is killed. So may not be the big crisis that we thought, but it gives us a little insight into what actually happened in the future and what we may actually see someday. So another major thing that happened in this episode was the fact that Barry tells Team Flash, and I guess you could count Detective West and Eddie in that number now, but he tells everybody about time travel, and he tells them that he's actually done it before. So he goes on to tell them about the original timeline when he was trying to stop the tsunami when Wells kills Cisco, and then he tells them how he accidentally ran back into the past and changed all that, which is kind of neat. They didn't even know that the tidal wave had happened, the tsunami had happened, because they captured Weather Wizard. So obviously they wouldn't know. But I hadn't really thought about that before, how, oh yeah, they didn't know that their city was almost devastated by a giant tsunami. So that was kind of neat to see. So he tells them that he's already done it, and then kind of makes the connections to Cisco's dreams about Harrison Wells killing him. And that's when they decide to make these glasses that will allow Cisco to basically access those subconscious memories. And I still have a hard time buying that. I still have a hard time figuring out how he has memories, even in his subconscious, because that happened in a future that eventually never happened at all. So I don't really buy that too much. Time travel is always a tricky thing to do, and especially this is network television, so it's going to be even harder with a limited budget, a limited amount of time to tell a story. But that was a little bit weird for me. I kind of wish they had figured out something else, but whatever. It didn't detract from the show too much. And the cool thing is we got to see Cisco create some very Vibe-esque glasses. So there's been some speculation that he'll wear something like that whenever he eventually becomes Vibe at some point. I don't think that'll happen anytime soon. I think it will happen eventually. We may get to see him wear something like that. So that was a nice kind of shout out to the book. And speaking of shout outs and glasses, Barry wearing essentially the classic Captain Cold glasses while they're actually developing the glasses for Cisco. So that was a nice callback to the books as well. Just any like little Easter eggs like that are always fun. So another thing I thought was cool was Eddie asking Iris to marry him, as I mentioned a couple times before. Actually, he never got to that point, but he was absolutely going to do that until the Reverse Flash came and basically kidnapped him. So I was kind of curious about why that happened. So one theory is that the Reverse Flash had to stop Eddie from proposing to Iris. Otherwise, she would have said yes. And Joe actually said that same thing to Barry about why he did not give Eddie his blessing, because Iris would say yes, even though she's not, deep down, she's not in love with Eddie. She's in love with Barry. And I think that, so anyway, this commenter mentioned that Reverse Flash had to stop Eddie from doing it, because if he had done it, Iris would have said yes, and then they would have ended up staying together and having different kids, which would have resulted in Reverse Flash essentially not existing. So I thought that was really interesting, and maybe if that is the actual point they were trying to get in the show and I didn't pick up on it, then so be it. I just didn't pick up on it. But I read that comment online, and I thought that made perfect sense. So Reverse Flash mentioned to Eddie that he's his insurance policy, and that's just a way to keep Eddie safe in case something happens to him. Again, if he dies or something like that, Reverse Flash would never exist. I almost wonder if maybe at the end of the season, I don't think it's going to happen, but I wonder if at the end of the season, Eddie, in order to stop the Reverse Flash, kills himself. And that way, there's no descendants, there's no Thawne legacy. Reverse Flash never comes about. But then, I'm just kind of thinking about this now as I'm recording this, so this is riveting video, I know. But what if Eddie realizes that Reverse Flash is a descendant of his, he kills himself so that Reverse Flash never exists, which means that the original Harrison Wells would never have died. I'm thinking about this, which means we could still get Tom Cavanaugh in the show as Harrison Wells, but this time he's good. Although, if that happens, then Eobard Thawne would not steal Harrison Wells' identity and make the particle accelerator go off 10 years earlier, which results in Barry becoming the Flash. So, I don't know. My head just exploded, and my face is melting off just thinking about it. But there's some cool things that they could do with this whole Eddie Thawne, Eobard Thawne time travel thing. And they're creative, and the writers are super smart. I look forward to seeing what they come up with. Another major thing happening here is that Iris discovers that Barry is the Flash. Now, this happens at the very end of the episode, and Barry doesn't know that she knows, but she figures it out. And it was kind of one of those cliche things, like where the girl kisses the hero in his secret identity and then kisses the hero later as the hero, and she just puts two and two together. So the way they explained it in this one was when Iris visited Barry in the hospital and he was still in a coma, she was touching his hand at one point, and there was a little spark of electricity that coursed from his hand into hers, and it kind of shocked her a little bit. She jerked back. And then at the end of this episode, when Barry, as the Flash, is talking to Iris, he touches her hand, and that same thing happens. So I got to thinking, why is that just now happening? It's pretty convenient, but I don't think that he's actually made physical contact with her before. In fact, I think that Barry, as the Flash, this is as close as he's ever gotten to her while being the Flash, and his face was vibrating and his voice was vibrating, so she couldn't tell. But it was the typical, oh, you did that in your civilian identity, and now that same thing happened in your hero identity, and I put two and two together. But still, it was okay. There was a lot of speculation online. There's been a lot of speculation online for the entire season so far. How is Iris going to find out? Is she going to figure it out based on some clues, which I guess that's kind of what this is, or is Barry going to straight up tell her? I actually kind of like the way it happened in the original timeline. Right before he stopped the tsunami, he just basically straight up told her. He grabbed his costume right in front of her and changed. I like that, but this is okay too. Like I said, it's really cliche, but I'm okay with it. I'm glad that she knows. I'll be interested to see, I'll actually be interested to see if they carry out this dumb thing that happens all the time where the person who was the last to know finally finds out, but they don't tell the hero, so the hero doesn't know that the love interest knows, and then they find out later. And that happened in Smallville, and that's pretty much happened all the time. That's happened with Superman and everybody. So I hope they don't go that route. I hope Iris just comes out with it and they just address it and move on, because it's kind of silly that she's the only one in the dark. It's very it's shades of Arrow and Detective Lance being the only one not knowing that Sarah was dead, or being the only one who doesn't know that Arrow was Oliver Queen. So I just hope they deal with that. They don't drag it out too long, because that's kind of annoying. Although I am glad that Iris knows now, but I really just want them to address it and move on. So possibly the biggest thing, though, that happened in this episode, and it could be argued, but the biggest thing that I think is the fact that they set this elaborate trap for Reverse Flash based on the memories they were able to get from Cisco, and they think that it worked, but then Reverse Flash is about to kill Cisco. Joe shoots him and he dies, but then it turns out it was just Hannibal Bates shapeshifted to look like Reverse Flash. So they're wondering what's going on, and then Wells actually calls into the team and reveals everything. Reveals that he's had surveillance on the entire team for who knows how long. There was surveillance from Jitters. There was surveillance from Barry's lab at the police station. There was surveillance everywhere. I think in Barry's house. I mean, all over the place. So Harrison Wells has been one step ahead or a dozen steps ahead of Team Arrow the entire season. That was fantastic. So all the cats are out of the bag now. All the cards are on the table. And I think we just have a couple episodes left to see how it's all going to shake out. But this episode was really, really great. It was pretty singular. It was no Freak of the Week kind of deal that we're used to, and that we've seen in other shows like Smallville and in early episodes of Arrow, things like that. This was all just hardcore Reverse Flash, Harrison Wells. Let's buckle in and get ready for the finale, and I thought it was absolutely incredible. So I can't wait to see where they go with the rest of it. But if there's anything that I left out that you guys liked, let me know in the comments below. And until then, if you want to check out everything else that the Nerd Punch crew is up to, just be sure to follow us on Twitter, Twitch, YouTube, or Facebook. All of those /Nerd Punch. You can also go to nerdpunch.com to see our new schedule of events for the week. We've got some video games streaming, these types of videos, our live games, Game of Thrones after show every Sunday. So go to the schedule on nerdpunch.com to check out what we're doing. And until next time, I will talk to you guys later. Bye.